All right, we'll call to order the Plan Commission meeting at the Richard Young Fire Station on Thursday, April 8th, 2021 at 6:37 PM. A roll call, please.
Chairman Osterman,
Here.
Supervisor Plotecker. Here. Commissioner Nelson,
Here.
Commissioner Meyer. Oh, he's saying here, but he's on Zoom. Commissioner Olhafen,
Here.
Commissioner Szymanski is absent and excused. Planner Holloway on Zoom. Attorney Michael Van Clunen.
Here.
Engineer Mitch Lysis on Zoom. Administrator Kathy Nicholas.
Here.
And Clerk Capazzo to record the minutes. Have I missed anyone?
No, I think so.
Okay.
All right, item 3 is comments from citizens present. Does anyone have any comments tonight? Anything on the agenda? Anyone on Zoom?
Anyone on Zoom hit the raise hand button?
No.
I see no hands raised on Zoom.
All right, item 4 is the minutes. Discussion necessary action on the following minutes: the February 11th, 2021 Public Hearing and Plan Commission meeting minutes and the March 11th, 2021 Public Hearing and Plan Commission meeting minutes.
Just February.
Questions or comments on the minutes we have? Is there a motion on the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, so move.
On the February? Obviously, we don't have
February
March.
11th only.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, seconded by Becky. Was it the 11th or the 12th minutes?
12th. It looks like there's a typo on the agenda. And yes, I will correct that before I post the final version online.
Okay, the motion's okay with changing the date to the 12th?
Yes.
And a second?
And I'm sorry, didn't have my phone, so I don't have a calendar.
No, it's fine. It's just, if that's the worst area we have, we're in good shape, so.
Mhm.
All right.
Actually was the 11th, sorry. This is Rachel.
It's the 11th?
Yeah, both months.
Actually, she's not broadcasting.
Rachel, can you repeat that, please?
Yes, I think it was the 11th for both February and March.
Got it. Thank
All right,
you.
is the motion okay with going back to February 11th versus the 12th? Ed, you all right with that? Making that
I
correction?
am, yes.
And the
Thank
second?
you, Rachel.
Yes.
All right. So
Yes,
the,
it does, say February 12th.
all right, so
Right.
we are on the 11th.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on the minutes? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Mark, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I was not allowed to unmute before.
Oh,
Were you an aye, Mark, or a nay?
I'm an aye.
All right, so motion carries unanimous. Thank you. All right, item 5 is unfinished business, which we have none of. Moving to item 6, new business. A, discussion only regarding preliminary draft documents related to amend Lisbon's Code of Ordinances as follows: the proposed creation of Chapter 13 related to impact fees and related needs assessment. And number 2, the proposed amendments to the Chapter 12 related to subdivisions. And Rachel, go ahead.
All right. So what I'd like to do is do a very high level explanation of what we have here tonight on the agenda. And I also have a colleague attending tonight, my fellow planner, who can hopefully help address if you guys have questions. She was very instrumental and actually worked on this project before I was working for Lisbon. So we're both at your disposal this evening. So this item is a couple items, I guess, on here are prompted by recent changes to state laws that are spurring changes to local processes and ordinances across the state regarding fees charged for building permits to fund public facilities. And this is on the agenda tonight primarily because of Chapter 12 subdivision ordinances. Your ordinance has to be amended based on these state law changes, and that will eventually require Plan Commission approval in addition to town board. The other information is in your packet. It's primarily informational, but it's to also just share that with the commission and make sure that we're connecting the dots to the various pieces that are involved in this, because it's not just the Chapter 12 ordinance, it's kind of a few things that are all connected. So I'd like to give a brief explanation of the new law, what we have done to date, and the next steps. So in 2017, this is when the new law was passed. It's Wisconsin Act 243. And what it did is change statutes in section 66. That's the law relating to impact fees. The municipalities now have to provide detailed reports to impact fee payers on how you will spend your fees. And so the municipality can fulfill that requirement by doing an impact fee study, also known as a needs assessment. Another key piece of the law is that it shortens the timeline that you have to spend the fees collected. So it gives you 8 years to spend fees collected in most cases, and certainly for the purposes we're discussing here. The process to date, what we've done, we'd started this project in 2019, Veerbecker did, I should say, and that's where my colleague was involved, as well as your former planner, Dan Lindstrom. It was put on hold for a while. There were a lot of things going on at the town that prompted that, but this was picked up again last fall. And we assisted with the park committee updating the new park plan. And that was approved by the parks in December and by the town board in January. We've also been working on updating the needs assessment, which had been drafted, but still it was to be determined what types of projects the town wanted to fund and things like that. Those were questions that we were able to kind of work through this winter. And so we've got a draft needs assessment ready, and also some ordinance text drafted based on the state laws and that updated needs assessment. So trying to tie all these things together. Our goal right now is to just set up your ordinances and your fees so that you can fund future park and trail facilities. Other facilities can be added later as needed, but it takes some time to figure out which facilities you'd want. You have to do cost estimates for those and tie them to specific geographic areas. So that can be a heavy lift, but that's something we just want to set the table so that you've got, ordinances on your books that would be easy to amend later if and when you decide you need to do that. Looking forward, just really a month out, our goal is to have a public notice posted in the very near future on the 22nd. So if anything tonight prompts more changes to the text or other things that staff might identify, we'll get that buttoned up shortly. And our goal is to have a public hearing, a joint public hearing with the board on the May 13th Plan Commission meeting date. That would be public hearings on a new impact fee ordinance, as well as the Chapter 12 subdivision code amendments. And then the idea is we would hopefully get to town board maybe in May 24th for potential action on both of those ordinances. And I mentioned this, but if you'd like, my fellow planner, Catherine Westaby, is here tonight attending by Zoom, and she could give a quick overview of the needs assessment if you'd like one, or just be available to answer questions if you have any. And I will certainly do my best to also help answer questions.
Questions from the board? Ed, anything?
No.
Okay.
Not at
Brian?
this time.
Becky?
Questions on the.
What you have here, would you like Catherine to do an overview on things more than what we have?
She can do an overview. Quick. Or we can just ask questions after, I don't know.
Is there any concerns you might have on what you have?
Well, I'm just wondering, with these, if we are going to be able to spend this money on new parks in an 8-year period.
Okay.
That's my concern, and I'm wondering if we can we buy new playground equipment, or we have to make a new playground?
Oh, it's a good question. I will say, and Catherine, feel free to jump in if I'm misstating anything, but the fees will just have to be tracked in some form by the town. So as you collect them, say for building permits, it's currently set up that there would be, I think historically the town has had one fee. You would have two now, one for parks and another for trails, which is called a transportation fee. That's based on the way the state laws are set up. You could charge fees to fund new park facilities. So it could be acquiring land, it could be playground, equipment, it could be building a new segment of trail. The key piece is that the facilities that you use the impact fees for have to be, like the demand for those facilities has to come from new growth. So if you're using impact fees you charge with building permits for these new facilities, the needs assessment that we wrote is trying to connect the dots between what's the future facilities identified in your park plan. And in the future, this could be sewer and water, other things of that nature. But for now, we'll just stick to parks. You have certain parks identified that the park committee, there's gaps identified in different areas of the town. And so we have a growth areas identified in the park plan and in the needs assessment, basically saying like in the northwest corner of town, you would need a couple neighborhood parks or one neighborhood park. So then the fees collected for permits within that area, within that growth area, would be used to fund that future park. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but John always had a program where he would replace the playground equipment at each park at a different year. So we can no longer do that because it's an existing park.
So you cannot use impact fees for to replace or to, sorry, this is Catherine Westerby. You cannot use the impact fees to replace existing playground equipment, you know, for maintenance or operations. In the needs assessment that's been completed, we accounted for new park in 3 development areas, so 2 neighborhood parks and a tot lot. And so we considered land acquisition, site prep, various things, and also playground equipment for those 3 new parks. So the impact fee that we have considers playground equipment for 3 new parks, but not to replace any existing playground equipment because that would be considered operational or maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Catherine, we could, this is Joel from here, we could, if we were adding on to one of our parks and putting new equipment on, not maintaining or replacing stuff we had, could those monies be used for that, for structures within the park?
So we did consider planned improvements in your existing parks. And what we'd have to do is look at what the new growth share would be. And that's roughly 13%. So in the community park, there's, I believe, about 6 items that the town would like to add. One is install a park shelter. So the cost of that, an estimate, is $400,000. Now you can't attribute that whole cost to the new growth. So we'd have to look at just 13%, which is $52,600. That's the amount that we could calculate towards the new growth.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mark?
I guess I just have a similar question to Becky. I don't understand. I mean, I understand the 8-year limitation, but that 8-year time period for spending those monies means that after we pass this ordinance or after the town board passes this ordinance and we start collecting these impact fees, that starts this 8-year clock, correct? So we'd have to have actually a plan in place in order to complete it within the 8-year period. And then if we don't, it's my understanding those monies go back to the people that paid them.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
So ideally, this should dovetail with if you have I know you have an annual budgeting process, but if you're looking out at least, you know, you might look out a few years or 5 or 8 years and have some sense of which projects you have that are kind of low hanging fruit, things that you might accomplish in the near term. And those would be really good candidates for your impact fees to make sure that you can use that money in the allotted time frame. That would be our recommendation. And other things you'd have to just find other funding sources for.
Yeah, so I mean, it seems like it's a 5-year plan kind of item so that when it runs late and whatnot, you don't lose your funding for it.
Right. And I didn't mention this, but it's something that I hope was sort of clear in the memo. What we did was took some language out of chapter 12, your subdivision code, and really made that a little more light touch with reference to impact fees, just kind of very basic, and then put the meat of your impact fee ordinance language into chapter 13, which used to be your sign code, if you recall, and then now that's just been reserved, available for another purpose. So we've repurposed chapter 13 to be a new impact fee ordinance, which really spells out all the details and tries to meet the statutory requirements for impact fee, rules and ordinances. This means that in the future, if you want to, at any time, you can update your needs assessment. If you decide, say, you have a sewer or water project you want to go through with and you want to use impact fees to fund that, you could update the needs assessment to, update that project list. And then you could update your chapter 13 ordinance accordingly with the fee amounts based on the project list that had changed. And it's a little bit of a lower bar to update your chapter 13 ordinance because chapter 12 has more requirements for public notice, things like that. So it's just a more complicated chapter of code to update. That was our purpose for trying to separate the impact fees into a new chapter for easier housekeeping in the future.
Chairman?
Good.
Kathy or Kathleen, I'm sorry, and Rachel, purchase of future land acquisition for parks is an extremely lengthy and difficult process, as you can imagine. Is with the documents that we're looking at, does that eight-year window apply also to the purchase of land and not necessarily improvements being, in other words, paths, roads, anything else, playground equipment being put in that park, but just purchasing a piece of property as property is becoming more valuable and scarce in our community?
Yes, it could certainly be used for land ed, and that would be specifically, there are a number of parks identified. I'm just trying to make sure I've got the number correct here. So there are certain growth areas. There are maps in the needs assessment that are also from your park plan that show, for example, a growth area in the northwest corner of town.
Mhm.
That would be, we're calling it growth area A. There's another growth area that it wraps around just to the north and east of your community park, north of the Bugline Trail. But that's a place where you expect to see future growth. There could be if town center concept has been discussed in the past, there's some land there could be developed. That's another area where a park would be needed. And then there's another area in the southwest part of town, broadly speaking, but it covers a very large area. I believe their plan is calling for 2 neighborhood parks there. So because the park land is included in your project list and in the needs assessment, that could be used, your impact fees could be used to acquire those lands or for park facilities, either way.
And that falls under that 8-year window? I
It
assume?
does. And
Yes.
so land acquisition is something where you might want to, be a little closer to going through with the deal, or so to speak, if you want to use it for land. Otherwise, might be good to just target that for facilities or, think about things that are going to go soon. Or this is also related to new subdivisions as those come in. So if something really starts going in one of these areas and you're seeing development, that's your opportunity to say, well, our plans call for a park here. Work with the developer to figure something out. That could be land dedication as part of the subdivision plat review. And so that's, there's opportunities there to negotiate something, I think, which might be different from just trying to find a willing landowner to purchase land from. I would imagine it could go pretty smoothly through some kind of development process like that, but also maybe involve some, costs on the town's part.
Okay. And one other quick question. In terms of funding, would also include if the town was putting in more walking or bicycle paths in the future, which are becoming very popular? We now have one path that's on Lake 5 Road, connects several subdivisions to the bug line. I realize subdivisions are putting in their own walking paths. Barnwood is an example. also on Lake 5 Road. But would it also include, because we have been seeking funding for quite some time to pave before mentioned path that's on Lake 5? Could we use, would it be permissible to use monies to pave that?
Yes, actually, Rachel, if you go to, let's say 8 or 9, slide 8 or 9. Let's see, nope, sorry, actually, let's go, yeah, 9. So these are the paths and trails that were considered for the impact fees. So, and if you actually go to 10, that has the map. So the pink, because there's so many colors on here, shows where the existing or where we'd like to add those trails. So on Lake 5, and then also to complete the gap near the community park. So that was considered in this study, and there's an impact fee for those trails.
Well,
But if you had your eyes on other trail segments that you would like to build, Ed, the best thing to do would be to update your park plan to reflect those segments of trail. And then you quantify that, work with town engineer to get a cost estimate for that facility, include that cost in your needs assessment, and then calculate, the updated fee based on that. And then update chapter 13 just to get the new fee number in there.
yeah, advice well taken. In a different world, Rachel, if we could split our time between our recreational responsibilities and land acquisition and paths, that would be very nice. Obviously, the town is in the midst of, at least on my observation, a selling boom and development boom that we haven't seen in decades. So it's thank you for the work on this, because it's going to be very important how that money is utilized over the, as you're saying, we have 8 years. So thank you.
I have a question on the part, and I can't find it right now, that says that the fees are not due until a building permit is issued. Does that mean that just the first building permit and then the developer pays all the fees, or is it as each lot is built on?
That's a great
So-
question. I think it is per building permit. So
Correct.
each individual permit, person pulling the permit to build something would pay the fee. So it'd just be a sort of a running, what am I trying to say? Like, series of deposits into your impact fee fund. But
And
the
this-
developer wouldn't actually pay. It would be the, people pulling the permits.
Mhm.
And that 8-year time span would start once that fee is paid on that fee, correct?
Yes, once it's paid.
Instead of having a developer pay for all of them in advance, and your 8-year time frame starts and nothing gets developed for 7 years. It actually starts after that building permit is pulled right then and there.
Mhm.
So then the individual lot owners
Yes,
are responsible instead of the developer?
correct.
Okay. Thank you.
But that, isn't that fee is that fee included in the cost of a plot, or no, it would be a separate item. Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Mark, anything else?
No.
Ed, anything else?
No.
Brian? Becky?
Nope.
All right. Well, if you have anything else, talk to Kathy, or I'd say talk to Kathy actually on this, and she can relay it to Rachel or send out emails.
Yeah, and if I
Alright.
can just mention one other thing by way of, I don't want to leave this out, I suppose. I did put it in the memo, but your town engineer has been working on some updates to road profiles and other things that we realize are actually, some of that is included in chapter 12. So this would be a good opportunity to incorporate any of that work that's being done and just update those sections of chapter 12 at this time, if you are amenable to that. we don't want the project to grow out of hand, but we also want your different ordinance chapters to match. So that's what staff has been thinking right now. And that was not included in the version that you have in your packets tonight, but that's something we would like to do before the public notice gets posted.
Yeah, Rachel, if I can step in.
Yeah.
I was asked to make some updates to chapter 3 because many of the specifics on the road structure and so forth have changed over time. So we're changing the town's cross section. We would probably be changing like the path cross section as well. And then there was a couple other things that we had noted that kind of cross over between both chapter 12 and chapter 3. And those were the items that I kind of sent over Rachel's way.
Everybody good with that, including that? Mark?
Yeah.
All right, put it in.
All right. And then the only other question I have for the commission is the addendum A. If you recall, you have the design standards attached to your subdivision code for commercial and industrial developments. And I just thought this would be a good opportunity to check in if you still want that to be an addendum to your subdivision code, because it's very similar, almost identical to the addendum E design standards that you have in your chapter 11 zoning code. But except the ones in addendum E zoning code are more specific. They were really intended just for your special use districts, which is B4 and BP, where chapter 12 is meant to apply those standards to any industrial or commercial development. However, if there is no land division involved, those design standards in chapter 12 can't really be applied. So I just wanted to see if the intent of that whole piece of ordinance was to apply, elevated design standards to all of your commercial and industrial developments, because if so, you might consider moving that over into your zoning code so that if someone is not doing a land division but just bringing a site plan, for example, you could then apply those design standards in that way. But I'm not familiar with the history on that and what your intent was of those addendums, so I just wanted to see if you had any thoughts on that tonight.
I think I need some time to think about that one. I'm trying to remember back what the initial intent, I was around back then. But I don't remember.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question? Rachel, can I ask a question, or, and I don't know if this applies. Would this, outside of HOAs and subdivisions, would this help regulate in some ways if a homeowner seeks to turn their, let's say their property in kind of a collection point or a junkyard, quote unquote?
No, I don't think they would apply in that sense or be helpful to us. It would really, it's really geared towards new development or redevelopment of sites.
Okay.
Brian? Becky?
I'm okay.
Mark?
Okay.
Okay. We'll get back to you on that addendum A portion, Rachel.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. All right, anything else?
No.
Should have said we'll circle back.
Are we adjourned?
All right. Well, that should end A then. All right, item B, discussion necessary action on the request by owner applicants John Kowalski and Jim Krause for a 2-lot certified survey map for the properties located at North 91 West 24111 Crooked Bridge Drive, X key LSBT 0156.017.004, North 91 West 24099 Crooked Bridge Drive, LSBT 0156.017, to adjust the lot line due to the purchase of 0.023 acres of land. Recommendation to the town board of the same. The applicant's here. Yeah. All right. We'll start off with Rachel, and you guys want to step on up, whoever wants to talk after our planner's done. Go ahead, Rachel.
All right. No problem. I'll keep this one brief here, even more brief than the last one. I know I always promise that. But your town engineer did the bulk of the review on this one, so I just want to, I guess, mention the purpose behind the CSM, and the specifics are really in the staff memo. We just have two owners here, Kowalski and Kraus, and the goal here was to separate off a small piece of land. You could sort of see in this image here, the frontage on North Road, the larger triangular lot is, that one is owned by Krauses. And they wanted to split off a small piece here for the neighbors, for Kowalski to use to have a secondary access onto North Road from the rear of their lot. And so that was already worked through with Public Works and everything as far as the driveway. But as far as how to do the land transfer, it was determined that they needed to do a certified survey map. And so that's what's before you tonight, just to carve off that small piece of land, make the second lot a little larger. There are comments in here. Some technical comments were provided. I wouldn't say anything major. I would note that there is different zoning on the lots, but staff did not think that was an issue because of the area involved is so small. It wouldn't be a buildable area because it's within the building setbacks. So we don't think that should be an issue for this CSM. Got a few of the images here on the slide just showing what the lot configuration is as proposed. And the staff is basically recommending approval if you are comfortable doing so tonight, subject to the recommended conditions in Kunkel's review memo, which is contained in your packets tonight.
Anything like that? If you're gonna talk, I'll just have you come up because we're on Zoom. They won't be able to hear you. I don't know that there's really gonna be any questions for you, to be honest. This is pretty cut and dry, but
Yeah, we read through everything.
Is the-
Diana, grab the mic and switch the bottom button
Yeah.
over to the right. Hello?
okay, there you go. State your name and address. please.
Diane Hauser and John Kowalski. We read through everything that Elisa sent over. It all looked great. Oh, the address N91 W24111 Crooked Bridge Drive.
Thank you.
So, yeah, we thought everything looked great. We just wanted to make sure that you guys were good with what we had thought about.
Okay. Ed, any questions?
No, as you said it, it's a cut and dried issue.
Brian,
So, nope, I'm good.
Becky,
No, I'm good.
Mark,
No,
is there a motion on this item?
I will, Mr. Chairman, I would move that the request for action and the request by owners and applicants John Kowalski and Jim Kraus for a two-lot certified survey map for the properties located at North 91, West 24111, Crooked Bridge Drive, / the tax number LSBT of 0156.017.004, and North 91, West 24099, Crooked Bridge Drive, / LSBT of 0156.017, to adjust the lot line due to the purchase of 0.023 acres of land, and recommendation to town board on the same, with town planning engineer comments also accepted.
Be approved?
Be approved, sorry.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Brian. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you.
Yes, enjoy your new driveway.
Item C is discussion and necessary action on the request by applicant Peter Ferracino for the property located at North 51, West 2222 Lisbon Road, tax key LSBT 0288.980 for a site plan and plan of operation for a hobby shop and occasional auto sales in the B2 zoning district. All right, Rachel.
All right, just some introductory comments. This property is on Lisbon Road. The address just mentioned, this is west of Town Line Road, but east of Roberta Drive, so down in the southeast corner. And Mr. Ferriciano has submitted this because he wants to set up in this building, and I'm sure he can describe it better than I can, but it would be just a hobby shop to do some auto repair and occasional vehicle sales. Our understanding is this not a very commercially intensive use by any means. It just kind of technically involves some commercial activity. And so that's how this was reviewed. The zoning on the property is B2. That's right. I just want to make sure I'm reading that right. B2, and this would be a fit with the zoning district. Just double checked and have the information from the site plan of operation is in your packets as well as in the staff memo, kind of hitting the highlights. There were no, there were some, minor things noticed with the site just involving the history. It sounds like this site has a history of similar uses, similar types of businesses operating on the site. So just had some comments relating to that, the outdoor storage screening. None of that seemed to be necessarily an issue with this site. We included some dimensions here. You can see there's a parking lot. There's some area that was removed in the past. I think it was from an underground tank removal. And so it sounds like his intent is to make some upgrades there, maybe fill in that pavement, restripe the parking, and just kind of, make the site spruced up if he's able to occupy this site. The building itself sounds like it would meet his needs. And I know there was something else I wanted to mention. We did send this over to the fire marshal for comment, and he's been able, I guess I'll ask the applicant if you've been able to connect with him yet, but I know that there has been some communication there regarding just what the applicant would need to do to get an occupancy permit. And he's already also connected with the building inspector, so he's working through those matters right now. I didn't see any issues with the amount of parking. I mean, there's plenty of space on site. Certainly, there's not really any customer traffic anticipated. They're very minimal. And the hours of operation are listed in here. I mean, he would be proposing to have access 24 hours. And then just 2 to 5 part-time employees, including himself. So just getting some, help here or there. The hours proposed would be Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. aside from the 24 access by the owner. I will leave it there if he has more to add, or if you all have questions for him or for me.
Any questions off the bat from the board?
This was a former, good evening. Is it Mr. Farasano?
Correct.
Okay.
Peter Farciano, 16755 West Brookfield, West Lisbon Road, Brookfield, Wisconsin.
Obviously, this is a former limousine site, limited use, as you can tell from the aerials. I don't believe there's been any service operating out of there now for several years. You're going to have a hobby, like working on classic cars, or I was just curious.
Well, economy cars and classic cars is what I do for a hobby. And I do a lot of people might not know who I am. I own Pistol Pete's in Brookfield, used to be here in Merton also. And I buy a lot of restaurant equipment and I refurnish it, and then I sell it. And that's how I operate.
Right. Did you estimate in the plan how many vehicles you might have parked on the property?
Well, there's plenty of land there. I would say, I mean, like right now, you can't even find a used car if
No.
you depended on it, basically. But I don't see, given time, because auctions are once a week, it ranges anywhere from 10 to 25, 30 cars. But then you're buying wholesale and retail. So a lot of these cars would be gone by the following week, because then you're selling them to dealers.
Okay, and I don't know if other board concern about oil leakage, any fluids, et cetera, that would come off of the vehicles, because I haven't driven past this site in a long time. I see there's a paved area, obviously, that's in back of the building, and that's where a lot of these vehicles will be stored.
Yes, and then and towards the front of the building, basically would have, we would sell some of a few of the cars, but more or less towards the back when they come in and check them all out, make sure they're safety checked and so on and so forth.
Are you going to be selling cars from the site?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And to that, Ed, I would add the recommended conditions of approval in the staff memo were borrowed from other similar uses and site plans, plans of operation that you have approved in the past. So there are some conditions in there related to storage. So the applicant has seen the staff memo, had the opportunity to review that. It mentions that no outdoor storage of materials other than registered vehicles posted for sale and other materials screened from view from the street and from adjacent properties. No storage or sale of junked or wrecked vehicles. So I want to make sure that the applicant would be on board with that as a condition. There's also some language about the vehicles being stored on a hard surface. And if their vehicles are susceptible of leaking fluid, they would be stored indoor or interior to the building while they await repair. In addition, there's some language about the storage of engine oil, antifreeze, other fluids of that nature in just suitable containers and waste disposal.
And those are for the applicant. And there's a homeowner obviously immediately east of the property, at least what I'm seeing here. I don't know. I mean, we've had discussions in the past about fencing to fence off other operations we have in the town. So the people, let's say, could not see the cars, but I don't, it would depend on how other board members feel about that. I have realistically, I have no further questions at this point.
I did talk to the neighbor. He hasn't mentioned anything.
The gentleman
I-
to the east of you,
Yes,
of the
and,
property? Okay.
and talked to him and told him what my intent is, and he said he had no problem at all. I'm not gonna make it into a junkyard. I'm not gonna take a car and tear the tranny out in the engine and let the car sit there for scrap. It's not gonna happen.
Okay.
I'm not a
that-
junkyard. Let's get that straight.
Okay.
That's
Thank
not
you,
good.
because that would definitely be a concern. I was
No,
just thinking
right,
about.
and first of all, that, the place needs a little tender loving care. I
Yeah,
mean, the guy died in 2017, okay? Basically, if I buy an economy car, a classic car, you need an alternator, need a battery, or you change an oil, it's not gonna go down no sewer or nothing like that. That's not the way I operate. You know what I mean? It's minor work. Storage in the back, I had just sold my property, 12,000 square feet, which was huge. And I got a good opportunity to sell it, and that's why I'm downsizing. And I was doing a lot of storage in and out for like boats and RVs and things like that. And everybody asked if they would come back. I said, well, I don't have nothing at this time. So this is what I'm looking for. And I don't know what your requirement is. I know there's one area that's fenced in and you can't see it. But then if you go north of there, there's another area. He's got 2 trucks out there. Is that okay or is not okay? Or does it have to be fenced in? It's got to be closed in? Those are a couple of questions as well.
the former operator did park his limit. In fact, you can see it in the aerial. He parked his limousines just to the immediately west of the building.
Correct.
Is it, last question, sir. I'm sorry, I don't know this. Are you on a well or septic, or do you have sewer and water?
It's all well and septic.
It's all well and septic there?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So that would obviously make it be very cautious about any type of oil spills, et cetera. Always a little leery when we get a lot of cars in one place.
No, I understand that. And you have every right to. I mean, that's part of what you're looking for. But I have B2 in my building in Brookfield, similar, same way. And actually, I put the oil in a container because a friend of mine has a oil heater. So that's the easy way to get rid of it.
Yeah, well, it's recycling it.
That's
Why not?
recycling it. So that's how I do it. So, but no, everything's always in a container, and he does the same thing with antifreeze. But I don't plan on doing that major work, but I don't want to be shut down if someone comes in there and says, hey, you're not supposed to do this. Try to understand me. I'd rather go for the top and then just take it, take it the correct way. That's how I operate.
Last, our planner mentioned the hours of operation. You're all right with that?
I'm okay with that. I went for those hours, but you're not going to see those hours. I'm already working 18 hours a day in my restaurant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. It was from 6 to 8, I think,
7 and 9.
or 7 to 9. Rachel, I
Well,
think you
let's-
recommended.
Hang on, Ed, hang on.
I'm sorry.
So we're saying with access 24/7, but the 7 to 9 is the operation. Can you define that?
Well, let's say if I am there and all of a sudden I want to, on a Tuesday, I want to open up at 8 o'clock, I want to make sure I'm okay, or 7. You know what I mean? I don't want to get kicked out at 5 o'clock and say, hey, the dealership's closed. You know what I mean? Or I can't make a sale at that time. That's the only reason why I put these hours, so that I don't have any conflict with you, the city, or the hall.
Well, that's what I was kind of wondering, because this is access 7 AM to 9 PM, but then, or Monday through Saturday, 7 AM to 9 PM, but then it says access 24 hours.
Well, sometimes basically if I'm out and about, and whether I take my classic car with me, whatever, you know what I mean, then I'm coming back. If I go to Iola, I come back at 2 or 3 in the morning. I don't want to say, what are you doing here?
Sure.
Okay, restaurant equipment, I do own 2 properties at State Fair, and I'm in and out from 12 midnight to 2 in the morning during the whole 10 days. I don't want to be subject to say, hey, no access on my property.
So
I
as far
wanna-
as that goes, I mean, do we need 2 separate on here? I mean, you're not looking to sell cars at 11 o'clock at night.
No.
But you may have to, like, let's say something happens, you gotta go get a piece of equipment, you wanna be able to have access to go get it.
Correct.
So does this fit the intent, and is this allowed by the code, how this is read, how this is written here?
It's same as the limousine. If he goes out and picks up someone at the airport at, red eye at 12 o'clock at night, and then he's putting his limousine back at 2 or 3 in the morning, it'd be the same scenario.
Right.
I'm
I
not
don't, I don't
talking-
have an issue with what you have here.
Yeah.
I'm just questioning whether or not how it's worded here is how we want it worded.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be doing work in there I'm gonna work up a neighbor or rattle anybody's cage.
Because it's, I mean, your one neighbor is a farm field, gonna be a quarry. The other side obviously is the homeowner. That's the one we'd have
To the
the,
east.
Now,
but
does
an
he-
impact wrench going at 2 in the morning would be an issue, obviously. Picking up a car is not.
Right.
So it's sounding like vehicle repair specifically and any sales activity would be limited to the hours he listed. Is that correct?
Correct.
I guess maybe we just spell that out a little better on the.
I could add to the condition number 9, where it says hours and days of operation, could say maybe in parentheses, vehicle repair and sales.
Sure, I just want to narrow it down, because otherwise it could say, we have to do this so someone who hasn't been here today is going to read this in a few years and go, what was it, the intent?
Okay.
And also, somebody complains that you're picking up a piece of equipment at, 10 o'clock at night, when it just says access, well, it doesn't say that type of access, let's just spell it out and make sure it's understood what it is.
Just clarify for us real quick, the purpose of you accessing outside of the hours of 7 to 9 would be for, can you specify in detail what those instances were? I mean, you laid out a few of them. I mean, based on your operation in Brookfield, what do you imagine that access being for in particular? Because what we can probably do is just state that hours of operation will be 7 to 9, 24 hours, access for 1, 2, 3, and 4, these purposes only. And then if you need to get something more specific, then you can just come back and we can discuss the plan of operation, in the future. I mean, you can be a little bit more general, but we gotta just, as long as we've got some key points that you'd be accessing your property outside of those hours, it would not be though for, as the chairman's already mentioned, to do a transaction or to start, repairing cars. It would be.
No,
for-
I'm not gonna be in there, like you said, I'm not gonna be in there at 12 midnight and making ruckus and making noise with the cars and stuff like that. Like, I mean, the police department tours, obviously, because I understood this place had a break-in. And actually the 2 buses right now, someone stole the catalytic converters out of them. So they have none. So I mean, I want to make sure that I don't have any problems with kids or anybody in here vandalizing. I check it thoroughly. As far as like equipment and stuff like here, I've already, like on one of my classic cars, I was up to 2, 3 in the morning. I'm replacing the whole interior of the car, the bucket seats, the carpeting, all that. I'm not here. That's going to make noise that a neighbor's going to say, hey, this guy's got his compressor going on for the last 4 hours and I can hear it next door and all that. I'm not here for that. Okay, restaurant equipment, if I go down to Chicago and Indiana and I come back up here at 2 in the morning, I have to put my trailer and my equipment in a building. And I don't want to have problems. That's what my concern is. Park the trailer in the building, leave it there, unload it the next day. Stuff like that. I'm trying to, whichever works feasible for both of us so
You
that,
might have actually just convoluted it a little bit more though with what you just said.
Mhm.
Because you just said about working on cars past that time, even though it's not a noise.
right,
So this is more to protect you and saying,
Correct.
and make sure we're all in agreement.
correct.
So. What, I'm sorry? Mhm. Right. Sales and repair of vehicles. So what we're saying, if it was 7 AM to 9 PM, that's when you could work on vehicles. So at 10 o'clock, you couldn't be working on vehicles.
Okay,
You could have access for as far as your other bringing equipment and leaving equipment, but not the actual repair of vehicles after that.
okay, so let's say 9:30 or 10, you don't want me in there changing an alternator with the doors closed and not open to the public.
According to what you have here, correct?
Right, and what I'm saying, if I have that opportunity, I don't want to be, well, I can't do that, I have to come back tomorrow, that's all. I'm not try to understand me clearly, I'm not going to be in there 24/7. That's
Right.
not going to happen.
But it's just, it can be one instance, could be,
Right, and I don't want to get on the bad side of the police department or sheriff's department or you guys. So that's why we are, yes, we're open-minded in discussing that and trying to come up with an agreement. It's just like if a limousine came back and all of a sudden the alternator went out, well, obviously, whether he has a spare or not, or he picked one up or one was dropped off, and you got to take it out the next day, you want to replace it, or battery, something of that sort. But that is not, that's just like you in your garage with the garage door closed. No one even knows you're in your garage, if you're in the garage or in your basement.
And the problems don't come when people don't know you're there. The problem comes when you have all of a sudden a neighbor that doesn't like the fact
Correct,
that you're there. And then
Now,
you're getting
does-
calls.
A question, does the guy east of me, is he a business too, or is he just
As far as I know, it's just a residence.
a resident? Oh, I don't know. I was just asking, that's all.
I was wondering that too, because it does have business zoning. I thought that seemed unusual, but it looks like a house.
Right.
Well, these were, at one time, they were one property together and they were divided, I think in 2017,
Why.
I recall.
Oh, that's right.
After Broadway Joe died.
Yeah.
Probably.
But it's just like you said, if he's got a garage and he does his personal in there at midnight or 1 a.m.
See, a personal thing is different than a business,
Right.
though. There's no site plan or plan of operation on that
Mhm.
end. Then you're just.
I mean, there are no neighbors really to concern but him,
Mhm.
but it's just an option. Unless you want to put it on a day-by-day basis and see how it goes. And if you feel it's a disturbance or not an agreement to something, then open back up for discussion.
But you'd end up back here. That would be what would happen.
Yeah.
Mark, how do you feel about this?
Well, I'm not sure why I'm reading the word hobby on any of this, because it sounds like either the applicant or 2 to 5 people are going to be here working pretty much daily, and cars are going to be being repaired and sold. And basically we're approving an auto repair and other light equipment repair and auto sales dealership here. And I'm okay with all of that because it sounds like the way he wants to conduct the business is fine. My biggest concern is what this is going to look like kind of from Lisbon Road. Is that we started out with a hobby of repairing a couple of cars and selling a couple of cars. And I think I heard now that we're also talking about storing boats and cars for people. And this whole lot essentially could be full of items at various points in the year. And I don't think any of that's been really very well delineated, so that we have any idea what to expect with that.
What is your intent with the storage?
Well, the fencing area, if someone wanted to put like an RV or boat, I would love to do that. North of there, it's not fenced in. And if somebody wanted to do that for the season, meaning boats and RVs, I don't see many classic cars or cars in general. People park outside and cover them. they'd rather have them inside. Also, that's why I had quite a few RVs, quite a few boats that were parked by me outside just for the winter months, from November till mid-April. That's what I'm looking at. If these customers would like to come back, they have an opportunity to do that. But
So do you have a specific area then, I guess, that you're talking about? Or
the
is this in-
fenced-in area,
I can't tell where the fenced-in area
um,
is. Is that just in between, like the two buildings?
Yeah.
The L
right
kind
there.
of,
yeah, yeah, that's it right
Right
there.
Okay.
That's fenced in. And then if you go north, yeah, that's not fenced in, but it's all gravelled with a little bit of weeds. And they have two trucks there now.
Mhm.
They have a huge dump truck and then a flatbed truck.
I did mention in the staff memo, this is Rachel again, that I guess comment number 8, the zoning code says that any non-residential off-street parking areas that face a residential zoning district have to have some kind of permanent screening with planting, landscaping, a wall, et cetera, and at least 4 feet in height. But then there's other language too that says the site has to be screened or landscaped to the satisfaction of the town plan commission for any outdoor storage. So it is up to the commission's discretion to, if you felt that some screening was necessary on some part of the site, you could require that. Because the residential property to the east is technically not zoned residential. I didn't pursue that further with staff comments, but there is residential zone property to the south across Lisbon Road. So just for context, and I think the chairman already mentioned the future quarrying in this area. So it's really up to you if you feel like some kind of treatment is warranted there based on what the site could be. I certainly looked at it from the staff point of view as that it could potentially be a larger business, even though that's not what he's proposing at this time. But that's where I tried to keep the comments in line with what could potentially have several vehicles on site.
I apologize. I was out of town and really couldn't review this until this morning, but is there any delineation of any of the number of vehicles that are going to be on site, either parked for sale or parked waiting repair or stored? Do we have any numbers to go with any of that or no?
I didn't get those from the applicant, but I did look at the site for, and the clerk helped pull an older site plan that showed, it looked like it had at least 30 parking spaces on the lot. And I could sort of see that from old aerials as well. So it seemed to me that, especially if he restripes the parking lot similar to what it was, it could even be some other configuration, but there should be at least that many parking stalls, which I felt like was, past muster with the ordinance requirements. I don't know what the applicant's vision is there, if he's thinking what the maximum might be for different kinds of vehicles.
Well, the storage area will be different than blacktop area, but you're about right. It would be maybe 30, 40 cars, but I don't think it's going to go over that. There's no way, because you got to have a big pocketbook to buy these cars, and if you're buying them and if I'm selling them in that way, but I don't see them being more than that at all. And I'm just looking for winter storage for outside. That's all I'm looking at.
So on that one, in the planner comment 7, surfacing of capacity for more than 4 vehicles must be surfaced and well maintained in a dustless condition. Permitted surface treatments include asphalt or blacktop, cement, concrete, brick pavers, or other surfaces approved by the town engineer, but not dirt, grass, gravel, or stone.
For storage.
Right.
So then area that's right now, that's stone on the north end cannot be used for storage.
I did read that correct, Rachel, right?
You read it correct. I'm just double checking that section 3J4, if that might be referring to parking lots versus storage. I know it's kind of gray too, the difference between those. But I think that was more in reference for parking.
That's what I thought too. In other words, what's blacktop can be used for for parking. Storage, that's what that place has been like that since day one, and it still is to this day.
Right, but it wasn't that purpose though.
Mhm.
So my question is, and what I think I would like to see is, as long as it's orderly, I really don't have a lot of heartburn over how much you have there or what it's doing. As long as it's not leaking fluids all over and as long as it looks orderly. But I think, some sort of a planting screen in that area where the asphalt was removed from that lot, probably for a tank, and maybe along the western edge so that that asphalt area and that stone area is somewhat obscured from Lisbon Road. And it's obscured from the east because of the residents on the east side there. If it was obscured just a little bit, I mean, you got a real wide chunk there that would be appropriate that's next to the building, that still gives you a lot of access there. But as opposed to replacing that asphalt, put some plantings in there and along the western property line just to kind of obscure that, all the stuff that sounds like it's going to be parked back there. And as long as it's in the code, storing stuff on that gravel, again, as long as it's orderly and it doesn't just look like a junkyard, that doesn't bother me either. It's just, we need a little bit, I think, of screening to the street. But I want to leave you some space along the front there where you can put stuff that you want to have out for sale, that people can see it. I mean, you get a lot of drive-by there. I mean, thousands of cars a day are on that road. So I'm not trying to keep you from being able to put the stuff you want to sell out there, but it kind of get out of the public view a little bit, some of the stuff you're storing or working on.
No, the stuff that you are correct, that are storing, and that would be in a fenced-in area or in that gravel area that's north of the fenced-in area. The whole parking lot is blacktopped, and just needs a black coating sealer on it, striping for the parking. And I do intend on putting some, trees and bushes in there to make it more presentable. I mean, it's a sore eye to begin with. And where the dirt was in between the lot, that was where the tankers were underground, and that's all dirt. Well, I would leave that and make that into a nice area for a bed of bushes and flowers or whatever it may be, make it more attractive. And the entrances, I don't want two big entrances like that. I would probably put some bushes there as well so that I don't have problems with people coming in and looking at property when you're closed and trying to steal a car and going over, you're going to end up going through a bush. So that all has to be addressed, and I will do that.
Yeah, and
Do
I
you
don't,
envision a need for security fencing on this site at some point? Or do you need that at your current place?
No, I don't need that at my current place.
I guess I'm fine with the overall plan. I'm fine with storing stuff that you want in that fenced-in area. No one can see it anyway. It doesn't make any difference. I would appreciate some vegetation, some screening in that cutout area like you just talked about, and along the west edge to kind of shield that huge asphalt and gravel storage area from view somewhat. And I think just as a matter of record, we should have some idea, we should have some numbers in there about how many things are going to be parked out there, and just to kind of define what it is that we think we're approving right now. Those are my comments.
Brian? Hit your mic, Brian.
The fire marshal sent an email saying that the listed use as on file right now for the old limousine service is storage and office use. So if you are going to do a garage repair, you got to kind of watch, because that will change the use. And so like storage, for instance, is just like an S1 use, which is like just storage. Then you work your way up to like an S4. And somewhere in between there, it all depends, because there's, limitations on your oil storage, limitations on antifreeze, limitations on flammable materials. So you kind of have to watch what you're going to be repairing, because if it's going to be anything other than just storing, you probably are going to have to submit some plans. I mean, depending on the degree that you're going to be doing, you may have to do makeup air. And then is it on a conventional system, a mound system, or a holding tank? Do you know?
I think it's a septic tank.
Septic
That's in
tank?
there, yeah.
Are there any floor drains in the building inside?
I didn't see, he has so much stuff in there, I did not notice it yet.
Okay.
He hasn't moved any vehicles in there. He hasn't been in there
Because
at all.
if there is any floor drains and they go into the septic system, that's going to be a big no-no if you're going to be a repair garage. If it goes to daylight, that's going to be probably another no-no if you're a repair garage. So there's just things to consider. Otherwise, Mark pretty much covered all my other concerns. But
This was operated as years and years ago as a automotive garage shop though, under this as well, back in the day. You know what I mean? It was a gas station automotive repair shop. So whether it was 30 years or 40 years ago, it was the same thing. I am not trying to, like you say, so I'm gonna order 55-gallon drums of oil and 55-gallon drums of antifreeze. No, that's not happening. That doesn't even happen in my place now. You know what I mean?
oh yeah, and I believe you. Then
Yeah.
you're probably, but you're still going to be, you're not going to be just a simple storage
Mhm.
unit, I guess is what I'm saying. So, so that's probably what, when you talk to the fire marshal, those are the things he's going to be looking for, like,
Correct.
you know, how much you're going to store. If it's going to be a case of oil, that's different than a 55-gallon drum. You know, and if you're going to drop a transmission or you're going to just change an alternator, those are two way different things.
Mhm.
So just making you aware of that for what you're actually going to be using it for. But otherwise, I just want to make sure you understood that.
And the RVs and boats that I've been parking are over $67,000-$80,000 that they've been parking in my premises. I had a inside loading dock and all that before, and I have the room to do that here, and that's why, like the north end's all gravelled, you're not gonna see an old beat up, you know, boat or RV there that's gonna sit there all year. They just wanna do it from the winter months, whether it's September till mid-Easter, you know what I mean, or mid-April. That's all. These guys have been renting from me for over 5 years, and they just asked if they would, if I found another place, if I have another opportunity. That's all I'm doing.
We had this exact same thing a month ago. Repair shop, storage in the back,
Mhm.
and we required fencing.
Okay.
That's why some of this is also being brought up. I mean, it was literally 1 month ago that we had this, and there was a complaint, obviously, but we did require some screening, and I can see with Mark's comments about trying to keep some of the area screened with
Oh,
some
no,
bushes.
I agree with, I'm not gonna disagree there. Like, you know, if on the west end, put some bushes, put a mound, you know, 3 or 4 foot mound. You don't see that on the west end. And then in the front, you know, put some bushes and all that. You know what I mean? Let it look more presentable than what it is, than a junkyard that it's looking like right now. Okay.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, it's
I've
a
seen your
store.
properties. Your properties all look nice.
Yeah.
I mean, they really do. I
No.
mean, you don't do anything haphazardly, I know that.
Correct. Thank you for that comment.
Becky?
I don't have any problems with what he's going to do,
Okay.
as long as he puts up the bushes, that's all. So,
With the hours of operation, looks like we're free to do, is at the plan commission's discretion at that point.
As it relates to the access versus the actual operation. As it relates to the access versus the actual operation, yes, it would be in the discretion of the plan commission to determine really frankly, what's that's gonna look like and what the plan commission wishes to approve and what type of actions it would like to, you know, prohibit outside of the proposed 7 to 9 range as well.
So there's a whole lot of things going on here, I guess, and Mark made a point as far as like the hobby end of it, so it's hobby, but it is gonna be repair of vehicles too, so it is gonna be essentially, you're gonna buy cars, you're gonna fix them, you're gonna sell them, auction them, equipment, so.
Yeah,
So-
yes, but my location in Brookfield has, how do I say, better use for me to fix it there and bring it there to sell. You know what I'm saying? So I have more equipment and stuff already set up in my Brookfield location. So I probably more or less 90% of
Fix
the
them
time,
there, bring them back here.
just bring them back here and sell them. But I'm saying this so I don't get shut down by you or shut down by the sheriff's department and doing something wrong or illegal. I play by the books.
It's light, I guess if there's any kind of term, we're talking like light automotive repair.
Pardon?
Simple automotive, light automotive repair.
Correct, correct. Very light automotive. I actually have B2 in Brookfield, and I'm allowed to do whatever I just asked for you guys here. Matter of fact, we had 20 cars the other day, and now we're down to 3.
So is what we have listed here really, is it fit everything that's being asked for, I guess? How do we keep them out of, keep them within the law, but not go too stringent on him that he's being overly restricted?
I mean, in light of the comments that have been heard as far as screening goes and, plantings that may be proposed, I mean, it sounds like the applicant may need to come back to the Plan Commission with those formal plans in place for, final approval of this. Is that something the Plan Commission is open to this evening? Because if that's part of the case here, then I think in that meantime, it may be best for the applicant to address specifically exactly every type of function this property is going to have. And there's going to be storage, there's going to be repair, you're going to have transactions going on where there's going to be a purchase and a sale. You're going to be accessing potentially at different times of the night. That should just be made known to the Plan Commission. And then when you come back with the plantings and, everything that's involved with this operation generally, that's already been asked tonight, then in addition to that, you can provide the specific set of circumstances that you anticipate using this property for within the 7 to 9 range. And then your ask as it relates to outside of that range and the type of circumstances when you would need to be on the property outside of the 7 to 9 time period. And then the Plan Commission can make a determination in its discretion as to whether it's acceptable to approving the use and the types of functions that may be occurring outside of 7 to 9. Does that seem like something the Plan Commission will want to consider at this point in time in light of what other discussions has already occurred? That is one option to try to resolve this so we have a clearer picture of what's going on here on this property. Because what I reviewed on the memo and then kind of what's been discussed tonight, seems like there's been more details that have been added.
Right.
And well, I don't know how you want me to break it all down. It's kind of, I mean, there's a lot of scenarios here. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to confuse you in whatsoever. Like my B2 in Brookfield, I'm in there all the time because I'm across the street, right across the parking lot. I don't make, and we're considered commercial and residential area. And I don't do anything to disturb or upset any neighbors whatsoever. I don't plan on doing that here or to upset the police department in any way at all. I'm doing the same thing, but I'm just trying to get it correct in our eyes for both of us to come to a neutral agreement so that I'm not doing something wrong.
It sounds like about 95% of what he's doing here, 24/7 operation would be no issue. It's just some of those things as far as that would make noise, essentially. I think you're gonna find that some of this with the, as far as the type of use too, you're not looking to do a full-on auto repair shop here, so.
No,
In those type of facilities, we required in our code a makeup air unit, which is like 20 grand.
Yeah.
And that was 10 years ago numbers, I think.
mhm.
And
No,
that's, I guess we gotta make sure you're not gonna be within those restrictions. That was something that the fire marshal will have to look at. But
any major work, like I said, is probably gonna be done in my place in Brookfield. It's not gonna be done out here.
Right.
Because I have all the facilities, all the equipment there that whatever I want to do, I do it there. I just take the car, move it along.
In essence, you're not, the chairman's asking, you're not going to be operating a car dealership, for example.
No.
I mean, a full-scale car dealer, what we think of as a car dealership facility. Are you okay with the aesthetics in terms of plantings, et cetera, screening? You said you were.
Yeah,
We're also obviously concerned, as the chairman's pointed out, about the time and the question of the access. And you understand the confusion for trying to clarify that. Trying to be
really-
fair.
From what I can seeing happening here, I think Pete's being overly honest with, and not overly honest, I think is the wrong term, but I mean overly cautious on some of it.
Mhm.
Because he just doesn't want to he's probably had some bad experiences and doesn't want to get busted out doing something.
No,
Hey, I'm changing, my alternator died in my vehicle, I'm here at 1 o'clock in the morning changing it
Yeah.
because I have to go to work in the morning, like anybody would do at their own personal homes. But it's not an auto repair or a business end of things. I think
Yes.
that's kind of what I'm
Yeah.
hearing here.
yes, he's alluded to that many times in his presentation this evening.
I mean, if we were to approve, I mean, even just to go 24/7 operation, I mean, you're gonna be subject to, the neighbor's gonna complain if something's wrong, and we can always review this at some other point.
Can I make a suggestion, Mr. Chairman?
Okay.
I guess I've heard a few different ideas tonight. What I've heard, so staff and the applicant, I think he is bringing a lot of information to us, and that maybe in part because staff really asked him to think expansively about all the things and all the ways he might want to use this property, knowing that that would be, the ask he should make of the commission, then kind of cut down from there, even though he might, use it less than what he's describing. I wrote the recommended conditions of approval to be really with all of those activities in mind. So I think a lot of these bases are really covered by what's currently drafted, with the exception of the screening. So that sounds like what the commissioners have proposed tonight. I'm hearing some screening and plantings in specific locations. That would be one condition to add. Otherwise, we've got the bases covered with the fire chief inspection, the building inspector. There's already language about storage. I think we might need to, I guess that's already limited, currently would be limited to, registered vehicles posted for sale. That might be a little too restrictive if there are other vehicles awaiting repair. And so I think that could be, it might be easier to have them come back. I think what's on the screen now, this kind of site plan, I could see just adding some notations to this, perhaps showing on the site plan. I would recommend, you've got an area already labeled as storage. The parking lot could be divided, like Mark had mentioned, to designate the front area as display for vehicles for sale. So that's maybe clear, as well as if you want some of that area for employee parking. I don't know if that's your intent, or limited customer parking, or if they would be parking more in the back, in the main lot. I think that could be better distinguished between those two areas. Hours of operation, maybe that involves language about activities associated with vehicle repair and sales. To me, that would clearly distinguish, that's the type of thing that he would be doing between 7 and 9, if those are still the hours you decide to approve. Otherwise, everything else would be, if it's not associated with vehicle sales and repairs, I guess other equipment. You mentioned restaurant equipment as well. I didn't know if that was part of this, so we should add that in if that's going to be something, done on site. Well, those are the notes I've taken down here.
When are you looking to start this? That thing tends to like to shut off a lot. Yeah. I mean, Rachel, we're not really gonna need a landscaping plan for this, are we?
I wouldn't say so. I would think, but some indication on here, although could also be addressed in a condition of approval if you, can clearly just state where you would expect plantings to be. and what kind or how high. I think that's typical.
Could they also approve with the condition that the screening be approved by staff instead of it coming back?
Right. I mean, I think that, it's a planning commission okay with that?
Yes.
I mean, they're gonna uphold what our wishes are in this. I truly believe that. I just don't want to make them come back again for another month later when I think we could hammer this out here. I mean, I think we've gotten the intent. I mean, staff
Right.
understands the intent of what we're trying to do here. And
Yes,
I mean, obviously we want to get some screening. You understand that. It's a multi-purpose facility here. You're not doing anything other than was already done there. I know who owned it before. I mean, it was all, maybe not as much of the storage end of it, but a lot of the stuff was already happening there. Does anybody have any concerns with anything he stated so far?
No.
You're generally accepting what he's proposing to do. It's just, as far as like the hours of restrictions, I mean, I personally, giving them 24-hour operation, if there's a complaint, we come back, we look at it and see what we got to change. I don't think there's gonna be.
Well, let me adjust something. Rachel was right. I'm gonna say that I have more hours in operation. I'm gonna be open. I am, but I don't want to get caught in the weeds. And like she said in the front there, if you look, Elsa, Elisa and I, we did put bushes over there. You see that in front? And the entrance, we narrowed it down because there is another entrance there on the south end. So we made it into one entrance, one exit. Yes, so there'll be bushes along there on the west end and then in front of it on the south end. And then
You
have
could-
have an entrance.
I think that's not gonna be an issue.
Yeah,
You can work it
and-
out with the staff.
And I'm gonna clean it up that it looks presentable. And believe me, it needs some work. And I don't wanna end up sticking 100,000 in it. I gotta go a little bit at a time, like the gravel in the back with the weeds. The weeds need all to be cleared up, freshly gravelled on there, and make it look more presentable. And the roof needs to be done, all that stuff. So I'm maybe I'm overdoing it. I don't know, but I don't wanna get caught in the wrong way and say you said this and you're doing this.
As far as the outside storage, Rachel, you were saying that it's restricted in your staff memo to registered vehicles or vehicles going out for sale.
Yes.
That's
So
something-
condition 4, I think we might have to tweak a little bit. It just says no outdoor storage of materials other than registered vehicles posted for sale and other materials screened from view of streets and adjacent properties. So I'm just thinking if you have a vehicle that's not technically posted for sale yet, it's awaiting repair, that would have to be screened from streets and adjacent properties the way it's written now. So I guess with some additional plantings that, that might pass muster as is.
I think staff knows the will of the plan commission. If you feel confident that we will make sure that he's got the proper planning and screening. And we could probably remove number 9, the hours of and days of operation, and leave it at 24/7. If we get complaints, I'm sure that we could bring it back to add an amendment to narrow his time and work. But I think at this point, he's been pretty honest with us, and we've gone through what all the possible scenarios are. Would be really hard to write down everything he could possibly walk on the land to do.
Right. Everybody okay with everything so far?
Yes.
Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. My only concern is that what happens when it gets sold? If we can run all this stuff to terminate with the sale of the property, then I'm really good with that. I have no real concerns with what the applicant's going to do there. But I also don't want to have to go through a lot of problems and months of hearings and changes and whatever if it gets sold to somebody who doesn't do business the way he does.
Right?
Well,
So
at that point, we could bring it back
all
for review.
site plan and plan of operations, when they change hands, come back to us. Like a
Yep.
brand new site plan and plan of operations.
I thought I just read that that's not true unless we specifically, or unless we specify. I think that that last change to state law requires us to specify if it's going to end or not. Or that it could, that it
It's
continues
conditional
with the
use.
land if we don't specify, rather.
That was on the conditional use.
Okay,
That's right. If this changes hands, you'll see it again.
then I'm fine.
Okay.
One question, are you allowed like to put a, like in the north end where it's the empty lot, that's not blacktop? Is it allowed to put like a pole barn or a metal barn or a storage? Is this allowed in that area?
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's allowed, but wouldn't he have to come back here to plan commission?
Well, yeah, to get it approved. Yeah, I just wanted to know,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That's all.
Yeah, but you've got a lot of hard surface there already. I mean, there's rules as to how much hard surface and stuff you can have. So I mean, we wouldn't say no, but there's a lot of ordinances about that, and you've got a very built up site already.
Mhm.
Yeah, you just have to look to see if, make sure it meets the ordinance.
Yeah. It would depend on the plans and specifications that you propose, and then evaluated at that time.
Right, I was just checking with you, that's all, for future, you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
have no clue.
Yeah. And if the rear is a gravel lot, like if that's already a hard kind of a compacted surface, I think that would already be considered existing impervious surface.
It is, it's just all full of weeds, you're correct, Rachel. It's just
Yeah.
all weeds, and I don't want the weeds in there. I think it looks terrible.
Yeah, it looked like it might have been paved at some point. I couldn't tell if it was gravel or just grown over.
I walked over, there's 3 HTB, which is hard gravel, just like a road site, and then it's just total with weeds. So that, I mean, it's got tons of good surface bonding. So in other words, it's not gonna sink or anything of that sort.
Sure. Okay. Any other comments?
No.
No,
So this is gonna be a weird motion.
It will be,
I'm saying it lightly.
yeah.
turn on your mic, Kath.
If you just add that to your motion, that the approval will be contingent on the, or condition of what's in her report, as well as approval from staff on proper screening,
Minus number 9.
Minus number
minus
9
number 9.
to become 24/7, yeah.
And what about the screening portion for, or was it number 4 as far as the,
I think we kind of lumped that into the screenings and plantings acceptable to town staff.
okay.
So I don't think anything really needs to be addressed.
Should be a
Let's see.
motion to approve the site plan and plan of operation for, is it, I mean, are we technically still calling this a hobby shop? Or just auto shop?
I'd go with auto shop just to cover the base. And a hobby shop, I don't know that that's defined in the ordinance. That's just a
Sure.
casual term anyway.
Would be a
Okay.
motion,
Yeah.
motion to approve the site plan and plan of operation for an auto shop and occasional auto sales in the BT zoning district with all the staff planner comments and to approve condition upon approval from staff minus item 9, and also was the fire department included in the,
Yes, that's in there.
it's in the planner comment. So just as I stated then. Correct, that would get us what we need.
Yes.
Yeah, did you say screenings and plantings?
Yeah, it's approval from,
He did.
You did, okay,
Yeah.
okay, you got it.
so moved.
You make the motion and
Yeah.
move it?
Second,
Seconded by Mark.
Do you have to put something in there about storing the boats and the RV? Or is that in here already?
Got the
Yeah,
story.
outside storage has to be licensed.
Has to be licensed.
That's in
okay.
there already.
Okay.
Okay, any
All
other
right,
discussion?
That covers it, yeah.
Did you include the fire marshal's approval?
It
Yes,
was in
that's
the
in there.
staff.
My concern, to be honest with you, if you're gonna call it an automotive shop, that does change the use according to what their records state. So I'm more concerned about how that's going to be treated versus what he's actually doing at the job site, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, what we call it here and what the use is, I mean, there's no real designation. I mean, this is just a.
And for
whoever-
zoning, I was calling it like garages or storage of vehicles in conjunction with business operations. That's one of the uses listed in B2 that I thought made the most sense. Because there's some sale and service repair, but that seemed to be kind of almost incidental or less, secondary to the garage use.
The garage and storage to do auto repair.
Yeah, so the garage and storage would be kind of the primary use, and then under that would be the some new used auto, I guess in this case, used vehicle sales, including supplies and service/repair shops. That's a use that's not listed in B2, but it's permitted in B3, and I felt like if it's kind of incidental or tied to the garage and storage use, I thought it would fit with B2 under that category that says any similar use approved by the Plan Commission. So if you feel like it's a fit with B2, I think that gives you grounds to fit all that in there.
So what am I gonna call it? I'm gonna call it a garage and,
Yeah, garage for storage of vehicles. You might say with auto sales and repair.
well, that's an auto shop, ain't it? I mean, where the kicker comes in here, Pete, is if you call it an auto shop and the fire marshal comes in and looks at this and deems it that use, and all of a sudden on their code, it says you gotta put an air makeup unit in there. I mean, it doesn't meet the intent of what you're trying to do here. I guess I don't know how that's gonna work with the fire marshal either.
I'm more concerned about, like I said. Because a makeup air can get pretty expensive.
No, correct. I don't have that in
You
my
don't need
shop.
it.
I'm not required it in Brookfield to
In
do
my
it there,
opinion,
but
I don't think you need it either.
yeah, it's wholesale retail. And I have no problem working with the fire marshal. I question what Canada and tell them what I'm doing. Once we go through it, I have no problem.
I mean, wording it the way we wording it, is this gonna affect what the fire, I mean, as far as the use of what's cleared with the fire marshal? I just don't wanna, I mean, we've confused the hell out of this enough tonight.
I would think that the fire marshal, I don't want to speak out of my element here, but I would expect that he would be using the codes and, regulations that he has to use to find a classification for fire purposes. Whereas I would use certain language for zoning purposes, but I think those don't necessarily always have to align perfectly. I don't know if you would all agree with that.
You're telling me.
Pete, have you had any conversation with the fire marshal yet?
No, I got a call from Rachel and I tried to get a hold of him, but he is strictly email in person, and I didn't know it. I didn't have his email, and then I found out from Brian, the building inspector, he said his email's on there. I looked, I did not know it was on top, the very, very top where it was sent to Elisa, the fire marshal, and Brian. I did not know that, and then I noticed that it was already too late.
How about this? We leave it the way it is, and if there's a problem, bring it back next month and we'll change the wording.
There you go.
Otherwise, I'm going from here to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Any problem with that?
No.
No,
Brian?
let
No.
Brian.
The fire marshal did copy you in the email that I read earlier. So he did say if you had any questions that you could contact him about it. But I hope you understand, I was just trying to, I hope, I was just trying to be cautious as to how this was gonna transpire to make it easier on Mr.
Sure.
No, and I appreciate it. I mean, like I said,
Right.
it's very confusing for all of us. And I don't want to, like I
Way
said.
more than I thought this item was gonna be.
Yeah, this has been.
Hey, I
thought
tell
I'd
you
be
what,
home
This has been
already.
fun.
I went in 2 months to do $80,000 renovation in Brookfield, and I was in and out in no time, maybe because they know me so well and they know how I operate, you know what I mean? But I'm new to you guys and I understand you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're doing the right thing.
I'm never gonna say easy meeting ever again.
No.
Holy cow. All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sorry for the time.
We need the liquor cabinet back.
Yeah, really.
We shouldn't have got rid of it.
Right? Item, right? Item D, discussion necessary action on the request by applicant Randy, is that Willie? And Lafarge Aggregates for an amended site plan of operation to allow for temporary seasonal extension of production hours for the properties located at West 249 North 9436, Hillside Road, tax scale LSBT 0154.992 and LSBT 0153.997 and LSBT 0153.996 in the Q1 Corning zoning district. You don't have a hobby shop or anything, right?
No cars,
Perfect.
no trailers.
Rachel.
All right. Now, I hope that one didn't set the bar here. We've got to wrap this one up. All right, we've got Lafarge Quarry. Mr. Willie is representing them, just requesting temporary expansion of their production hours from what they currently have as 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., which is in your ordinances and established, is my understanding, for all quarries. What's driving this is they would like to have extended hours for just 3 hours in the evening, so going up to 9 p.m. from May through the end of September of this year. And the request is based on, I guess, a combination of things, but it's driven by COVID protocols that are impacting their employee schedules. So shift work for employees, and as well as energy costs associated with their operations and the need to do some operation during off-peak hours. So it's a unique, facility for that reason. And so this would help to help the company weather those challenges at this time for this year. The extended hours would not involve any trucking operations on their site, but it would involve the running of the plant. And the applicant did provide materials which are in the packet that explain that, a good narrative, as well as more information about the specific protocols that they're using on site. And so that's the basis for the request. This would be, the site is located, of course, off Hillside Road. They have holdings that cover 3 parcels. I have to point out I had an error in my staff memo that I thought that they also owned the parcel that abuts County Highway Q to the north. And that's reflected on the staff maps that I provided, but that parcel is not included in this. So that parcel on the very north end is not part of this proposal or their holdings, just to be clear. And so the land, they've got their Q1 zoning on their current property. They've got, as I think you're all aware, and of course you've just been doing some quarry annual checkups, that they've got their state permit, the county permit. They're doing the annual licensing permit with the town. Long range plan shows all of this as extractive use. So no issues there from what I understand for the zoning. The recommended staff conditions, just checking to see if anything else in the memo here. I didn't get it, too much into the operation, and he can explain more if you have questions. I found some sections of zoning code that, well, this operation did not, the staff doesn't think it has ever been issued a conditional use permit formally, through the process and everything, but there was quarry activity on this site that predates your zoning code. So it's basically a grandfathered type use in staff's opinion. And they're just proposing to do exactly what they're doing now. It's just that some of that activity would be extended hours for the season. Your zoning code does have a provision under section 4, H25 for quarries. And it says that, quarrying operations are limited to 12 hours per day, but the town can grant exceptions in certain situations. There is a provision that says the town board can extend hours during periods of national or unusual emergency. It can extend hours altered at the discretion of the town board and through the issuance of a special permit, which should be renewable at 30-day intervals. And similarly, Plan Commission can, modify some restrictions based on other, matching other provisions in the zoning code. But to my knowledge, there's nothing proposed that would physically change conditions on the site. So that section is not as applicable. Staff is recommending, if you are supportive of this request and think we have solid footing here, we recommend approval subject to certain conditions which are included in the staff report. A handful of those are sort of stock language. the property does have some county shoreland zoning present on it, so we have made the applicant aware he needs to obtain approval probably from the county, and the county staff did indicate that as well. So that's just a condition recommended by staff in the memo. We'd have the standard hours of operation would be Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday, 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then I added a recommended condition granting temporary hours of operation as proposed, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. from May 1st through September 30th. And specifying in that condition that during those hours, it would be limited to running of the plant, shall not involve any trucking on the site or to or from the site, and that the special approval would be renewable by town board every 30 days. In addition, which is not included in the staff report, but based on more recent staff conversations preparing for this meeting, we thought it would be good to document the existence of their conditional use, just so that there wouldn't be as many questions in the future. Or say a similar type of request came forward, we thought it would be beneficial to somehow get something on the record that just says that yes, this existing operation is a conditional use, and just, you know, kind of making that official for the books for Lisbon. I will leave it there unless you have questions for me.
All right. Ed, questions?
The only question I had was about traffic, and Rachel answered that, so it's mainly for plant operation hours, not extra trucks out on the road or on hillside, correct? Correct. Randy Willie, Lafarge Aggregates. I'm the Land and Environmental Manager. My address is 1300 South Illinois Route 31, South Elgin, Illinois. Yes, it's strictly for production. There would be no trucking, no shipping. Gates could be locked. We just need the extra time to make more efficient use of what we can do during the busiest part of the year. And we selected May through September because we have longer daylight hours. People are out mowing lawns. There's a lot of traffic still out on the roads. And again, it would be a limited amount of the equipment that's required to continue to build the stockpiles up. Understood. No
Okay.
further questions. Thank you.
Brian? Becky?
Nothing.
Mark?
No, just, can the neighbors hear when the stuff runs at night? Is it gonna be a problem for your neighbors to the east?
The distance from the plant to the property line is probably about 500 feet. And there are stockpiles that would be blocking what I would say the primary source of noise is probably the screening plant, the initial screen that separates the sands from the gravels. But it's a fair distance away. And about the only other thing that I would think of, and we'd be more than willing to change, if the end loader that's out in the field feeding the plant has a beep alarm for a backup, we could change that to what they call a white noise.
Yep.
And we've done that in places too, because that's more of a piercing sound as opposed to maybe the lower rumbles. But we would be more than happy to change that if that's carrying.
Yeah, I'd be fine with it as long as you make that change and you understand that if we get complaints that we'll have to revisit this and you'll have to come back.
Absolutely.
All right. Right. So as far as the talk about with the conditional use, I mean, that would be on a separate, we're not doing that here. We'd have to come back and just recognize that they have a conditional use, or we just.
The idea was to put a document together to put on the deed, that it's just to help us in the future and the quarry in the future. That says that, you know, the transition of the, to the zoning did automatically give them a conditional use permit. So we just want to put that on file so it's not questioned again. We don't have anything in the office, and if we put it on the deed, we know that it's not going to go anywhere.
We don't have to, the applicant doesn't have to come back for that to be
Right.
a formal approval.
Everybody understand that?
No.
One question. As far as the conditional use, would that have an expiration on it? Because we were a grandfathered operation?
No.
There's
That'd
no,
be permanent.
Yeah, there's no, it would be grandfathered.
Okay.
Mark, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it would it'd continue into perpetuity. Yep.
So the business started operating in the fifties, I believe?
Lafarge acquired it, I believe, in the early 1990s, but I believe Rachel even told me that the aerial photography was in the 50s when it was opened up.
That's right.
Okay.
I'm good.
You're good, Mark?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
So
The additional condition that all vehicles will be changed to white noise beeper instead of the regular one.
Okay. Applicant,
I have no problems with that change.
everything up here, basically. That's what your motion's gonna be. Sorry. Which includes the staff memo.
Already.
Okay. Is anyone ready to make a motion on this item?
I will, Mr. Chairman. I would move that the request by applicant Randy Willie of Lafarge Aggregates for an amended SPP 00 to allow for temporary seasonal extension of production hours for the properties located at West 249, North 9436, Hillside Road, with an LSBT of 0154.992 and an LSBT of 0153.997 and LSBT of 0153.996 in the Q1 Coring zoning district be approved per planning commissioner comments. And the white noise was already added, correct?
White noise backup alarms
White no backup alarms
in this.
be
Okay.
approved.
Planner comments?
Planning comments, what? I did say planning commissioner or planning comments.
That covers everything. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Becky.
Do you want to put the hours in that motion or no?
Those are in the memo.
It's in the staff report.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I thought it was.
Okay. Any other comments?
No.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item E, discussion necessary action on the request by Joe Vukovic for MLGPF Twin Pines LLC for preliminary plat approval of Twin Pine Farms Phase 3 on Lake 5 Road, tax LSBT 0171.995, and recommendation of the town board of the same. This was approved by the Lisbon Merton Joint Planning Committee meeting. Rachel.
Yes, so we have Mr. Vukovic here back before you, as you've probably anticipated. He's brought forward his preliminary plat for this Phase 3 of the subdivision. And this would be, again, for 53 acres between Lake 5 Road and Center Oak Road, just north of Plainview. As you recall, you've already approved recently rezoning for the land, which would be R1. And that's in keeping with the long-range plan. Chairman mentioned that the Joint Plan Committee already just recommended approval of the same plat. And the staff report, include on the slide here some images, but it's easier probably to see what's in your packets. This was reviewed by the subdivision code, looking at your long-range plans, intergovernmental agreement with Merton. Everything here seemed to be in line with the comments received to date. Of course, you had looked at the concept plan at the time he proposed the rezoning. There were some, the discussion really revolved around the public roadways, the design and layout of the roads, the connection point to Center Oak Road, as well as a little bit of discussion about the boulevard entrance off of Lake 5, which is intended to mirror or be similar to the entrances of the subdivision from earlier phases just north of here. We also covered in previous meetings a potential, or I guess I don't know if it's still potential. I think you said it's verified a small wetland within Outlot 2 and the regulations that would apply there. And in this case, there have been some changes made from the concept plan that you saw previously. Specifically, he's added a connection here from Marshall Drive that would run through this subdivision over to Center Oak Road. That would now be full public right of way. So there was discussion last time about that being potentially an easement just for emergency access. Now that would be a full public roadway. In addition, trying to think of the other changes, there've been some, he did submit construction plans as well. That's under review with the town engineer. We're preparing a developer agreement for this, which you will see soon. Nothing changed much with regard to density. In the staff comments, we have not many things that would suggest changes. Really, I don't think anything that would suggest changes to the preliminary plat. Our comments are really focused on looking towards the final plat and what would be required on that. I would like Joe, the applicant, to clarify his approach and the timing of related to the wetland and Outlot 2, just because I think that would involve some stuff with the zoning. We'd have to keep C1 conservancy zoning over that wetland, actually, unless you get that permitted to actually be disturbed and remove the wetland.
Why don't we do that right now?
Yeah.
Good evening, I'm Joe Vukovich with MLG Capital, 19,000 West Blue Mound Road, Brookfield. And on Tuesday, we received the wetland delineation report, and there is a wetland between lots 5 and 6. It's 4,149 square feet. And I authorized our engineer to start the paperwork to get a DNR wetland fill permit. A general permit is allowed for 1/10 of an acre or less. And also to apply for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permit for a fill permit as well. We don't think that the U.S. Army Corps has jurisdiction because there's no hydraulic connection, but we're just going to cover all those bases at one time. And I talked to him today, and I wanted to get all that done and back so we could be back in front of you with a final plat and development agreement for the June meetings. So that is our intent, and that area is going to be used for stormwater. That big outlot, I think that's Outlot 3, is going to be an infiltration basin in that area where that wetland is going to be somewhat of a sediment type basin to collect all the dirt from the roads and from the swales before it goes into the infiltration. So our intent is to eliminate that, just to help with drainage. And right now it's just a low point in a farm field that's been drained. That just where the water sits and infiltrates in. So that's our intent of the wetland area.
Okay.
I'd say otherwise, there were a few items in here that warrant, I was hoping the Plan Commission could discuss, and also a few things that would technically need waivers from your subdivision code. So those are pointed out in the staff memo, just so that when it comes time to make a motion, I would recommend that the commission just confirms the intent to grant waivers in just a couple places. So one would be the maximum cul-de-sac length, which is 500 feet. The Crestbrook Court and Hunter Court would both exceed that. But we discussed that a little bit at the concept plan stage 2, I believe, and nobody that I recall took issue with that. There's a minimum tangent length between a couple of curves where Marshall Drive approaches Center Oak in the west end. That would not technically be met, so that would require a waiver. Also, the minimum boulevard island size, the code requires a 50 by 20 foot boulevard island, and Joe is requesting a waiver from that based on his design. He did provide turn analysis for fire trucks, and he worked it out, I believe, with both fire departments, if I'm not wrong on that, just to confirm that the layout worked for them, and certainly the cul-de-sac bulbs meet the code. So those are the only waivers I pointed out, and I did suggest that the boulevard, and that came up at the Joint Plan Commission meeting as well, that the boulevard, they wanted a better understanding of why the alignment and layout there is just not as symmetrical or typical, such as the ones further north. So wanted the developer to address that.
Can you address that?
Yes, absolutely. In terms of the fire department, I left a message this afternoon. I didn't get the turn
the turning template for the fire department. I have copies if you want to see it. I can hand them out. But they're able to get a 37-foot long truck. There you go. There, it's up on the screen for you. And that can turn all the way around the cul-de-sacs without jumping the curb or driving up onto the shoulder.
So the fire department's okay with this?
I have not gotten the okay from the fire department. Still trying to touch base with them on that. And then the boulevard alignment, our main concern there was we have 5 lots from Lake 5 to Marshall. And if we started to do the more traditional come in and neck both sides down, I was more worried about trying to have radial lines and not meeting the required lot dimensions, the 150-foot average width, because you're going to have lines converging and diverging on the bottom. And what I would like to do, looking at that a little closer, the island that we have there is 18 feet back to back of curb to back of curb. And I'd like to mirror more of the northern entrance into phase 2. That boulevard is 6 feet back to back. And what I would propose would be 8 feet back to back. And if we start doing that, I think we can move that Crestbrook down and be, Rachel sent me some directions for looking at the entrance to phase 1 where it's more symmetrical, and we've got some area in lot 1 and 2. 43,560, so we got like 2,200 square feet that we can probably slide that down a little bit and make it more symmetrical coming in there. And I think I want to do that as long as we can go down to the smaller boulevard size. Initially, we're looking at the 18 feet, and that was too much to go down into lot 1 and lot 2, and with the radial lines, we were proposing this, but I think we can do a little bit more, moving that intersection down to the south a little bit and making that more uniform on both sides of the entrance.
So what is the dimensions on the Boulevard Island that you're proposing now, Joe? Just so I'm clear.
8 feet from back of curb to back of curb. And I don't have an east-west dimension. Right now, it's about 140 feet, and I probably shorten that up 10 feet. The other thing that I'm looking at is when you're driving into lot 1, you're gonna have to come around and kind of do a little bit of a U-turn into your driveway. So I'd like to shorten what's shown there by 10 feet to the east. And that'll give them, they'll be able to drive into the western portion of their driveway without having to do kind of a U-S turn type deal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How big are the other boulevards in Twin Pines?
The northerly one was 6 feet back to back. I didn't measure the main entrance into phase 1.
I heard what you're saying about what you want to do to even this out, but I'm not visualizing, I guess, but it's going to make it more symmetrical at the end of the day.
Correct.
Yes, the island would end up scooching just a little bit south. It would eat into lots 1 and 2 here on the south side of the right of way. Is that right, Joe?
Right, yeah, and you see that angle point on the north right of way line, it's like 48 feet. That would end up being like 24 on both sides.
Yeah, so take down this inbound lane, it would shift south a little bit, so it wouldn't be quite as off.
Right, and then
Require as much.
you mirror that northerly one on the south side, 24 in the north, 24 in the south, and you'd have more symmetrical coming in to help blend those lines.
Any issue with the planning commission on the boulevard size?
No, you have a bigger map, Mr. Chairman.
You should have it.
Well, we have a map, but it's just,
Should be the next one in there.
I have a bigger map. I do have a bigger map. Lots of paper. Ah, the numbers are bigger.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Mark's getting the majority of that. Mark, you go with the boulevard? Proposed?
Yeah, I didn't really have a lot of heartburn with it being a little offset like it is. But what he's proposing is fine too.
As far as the courts being longer than they're supposed to be, any issue from anyone on that?
No.
Okay. Boulevard that, so that was all of them, wasn't it, Rachel?
Oh, and that tangent length, that's just, I'll show you on the screen here. That's this tiny bit between the first curve in Marshall Drive and this next curve. Technically, that should be 100 feet. It looks like it's 45 feet. If I got the right dimension there. But Mitch has reviewed these plans as well, and Public Works Director, and they did not have issue with any of these dimensions. And I have to say, even the boulevard, I've kind of pushed back on this one with the developer, but it's just, it's not based on a code requirement. It's just more of a functionality, will this work kind of thing. So I hope it's well taken. You've been a good sport about it. So I hope I haven't been too pushy.
That tangent being smaller there was created, I mean, that was really created by us wanting that road to go through. Correct?
Yeah, to a point, and if you made it longer, you start squashing down the depth of lot 10. So it's a direct result of the extension out to Center Oak.
But it's, I mean, DPW is not gonna have any issue with this. We're not gonna. Plan commission. Okay. All right.
Yeah, if DPW is good with it, it's fine with me.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. All right. What else we got, Rachel?
That, I think those were all the comments I wanted to go through. The rest are really minor technical things. Have to address any comments from town engineers review. That's also in your packet, some of the markup for the plat. And you'd see covenants would be provided at, with the final plat. I think this is all set from my vantage point. I would recommend approval. We have some draft conditions. Sorry, I noted final plat in the staff report. It should say preliminary where the recommendation is made, but I think as long as the waivers are noted, and then unless you have any other conditions to add.
Fire department approval on the cul-de-sac size. Would be one of them. Any comments, questions from the board?
I will check. I might actually have an email from fire department while you guys are discussing.
Add anything on it? Brian? Becky?
No.
Mark?
No.
Well, I mean, if you have it, Rachel, it'll meet the condition.
That's right. No, nothing new there.
Okay, anything else from staff on this?
Just to give a little perspective on the cul-de-sac, the radii. The code requires 120-foot right-of-way, and we're proposing a 200-foot right-of-way. So it is bigger than considerably bigger than what's required in the code. And the pavement, I believe, is 90 feet worth of pavement, and we're going to be 158 foot on the pavement. So I'm not expecting any issues from the fire department on that. So
Yeah, I would agree with that.
little perspective.
Sure. We'll just get their blessing and make it all official. All right. Does anyone wish to make a motion on this item? I'll make the motion that we approve the preliminary plat of Twin Pine Farms Phase 3 on Lake 5 Road with all the conditions set forth. And Rachel, oh, she just pulled that off the screen.
Sorry, I'll get that back up there. There we go.
With granting the waiver to exceed the maximum 500-foot cul-de-sac length for Crestbrook Court and Hunter Court, And also to the grant, the minimum 100-foot tangent lengths between curves on Marshall Drive be shortened to, you said 48,
45.
45? And to allow the minimum boulevard island size to be less than 50 foot by 20 foot as stated here tonight in the Plan Commission meeting. Also requiring the boulevard to be more symmetrical as was stated here tonight. And to include the recommended conditions listed in the staff memo dated 3/25/21. Does that cover everything?
I think
also-
so.
Department approving the cul-de-sac also.
Second.
Anything we missed? Did you think? They all need to be blue. All right. Any final discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item F, discussion necessary action regarding renewal of the annual mobile home park license for American Mobile Home Communities and recommendation to the town board of the same. I mean, this is pretty typical.
This is your annual license in front of you.
Anyone not know what this is? Is there a motion on this item? Ed, switch on your mic.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the action regarding renewal of the annual mobile home park license for American Mobile Home Communities and recommend the town board of the same be approved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Brian. Becky's gonna smack you. Any final discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item G is the assignment of annual site inspections in business and conditional use operations.
So this is brand new to me, but I printed out every sheet in the most recent spreadsheet that Gina had on the system, which was dated January of 2020. So if I'm missing something, please let me know and I will be more than happy to get it for you.
What is,
didn't they decide not to do these?
Hey,
Is that why there was one done in 2019 and none in 2020?
well, we didn't do them in 2020 because of COVID.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So what are the feelings on doing them this year?
well, for the record, I thought we were going to, and Alicia gave us packets. I have made appointments for my two,
Okay,
Genesee Aggregate and,
But that's
No,
for
this is
quarries, not for
different.
this.
those are required. Yeah, those are required.
This is
This
different.
is something we do that other communities probably don't.
okay, I'm not having a good evening right now. Okay.
I'm learning as we go here.
That's okay.
No, it's
So,
not okay.
We did not do these last year because of what was
COVID,
going on with COVID.
sure.
Now, we still do have COVID going on, but obviously it's probably not the severity it was, but what is everyone's feelings on this? We could
Oh,
go
boy.
another year complaint-based, or we could be proactive on it this year. I guess, how's everybody feel? Also,
Have we had any complaints?
No.
No.
I'd say let's go another year complaint based, but
got a motion?
I'll move that.
Yeah, and I agree, Mark. Yeah. Brian beat me to the second.
Motion and second to go on a complaint-based situation for the year 2021 again until next year.
Who is the second?
Brian.
Brian,
Brian,
any discussion? All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Or complaint-based again in 2021.
Okay.
Item 7, plan report.
All right, we have Not a ton that's confirmed for next month, and we're still kind of waiting to see what's actually confirmed, but the items we would expect, we have no planner appointments today, so it's been a little quiet on the planner appointment front. But as discussed earlier, we'd expect to bring back to you next month the impact fee ordinance. And, well, at least the chapter, yeah, we'll have the public hearings on the chapter 13 impact fee ordinance, also on the chapter 12 code amendments. We're also expecting to have Sunvest Solar back on the agenda. We're still waiting for some more information from them based on last month's discussion, but expecting that should be coming soon. So hopefully that will be back on the agenda to figure that out. Kathy, feel free if you want to add to anything I'm saying here, but I'm also anticipating Quick Trip. I just forgot about this for this month's agenda, but their Silver Spring project, we realized that they had never obtained a major grading permit for their project. So even though you approved a conditional use and site plan back in 2019, the major grading piece of it was kind of left out. So we want to just get that wrapped up at this time based on the plans that you already approved, just to kind of put a bow on it. And Quick Trip is anticipating coming in for that. They might be ready as well. They're working on getting their plans kind of in line for their site up on County Highway Q and 164. I have the wrong road name here, but they should come in with that. Actually, that won't be a CSM in May, but that would be done later on, technically. Also, you'll have Hillside Ridge Phase 2 final plat, and hopefully the developer agreement would track with that for your May agenda. Can you think of anything I'm missing, Kathy or Elisa?
No.
Thank you, Rachel. Any questions for Rachel? All right. Kathy and I haven't talked about this yet, but we're going to. It's time to appoint a new plan commission member. We've let some time go. Obviously, Jane is well missed, but at some point we do need to do it. So we're going to talk about getting that process going. Haven't had to do this in quite a while, actually, so not sure what the process is going to look like, but just so everybody's aware, we're going to start it. So now Kathy and I have talked. All right, item 8 is adjournment.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Out at 8:49. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Good night.
Thanks. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Rachel.